Hello, and thank you for tuning in to Rising CNY with me, Lakia Cahill. We have a couple of Gen Zers in the house, and I think what better way to really set off this podcast of Rising CNY than with the rising of our future leaders, entrepreneurs, creators, developers, and even working our workforce as well, And I have two amazing young men here, both students of Lemoyne College, just starting and ending their journey here, one going off into the real world and the other just beginning his journey to figure things out before he sets off. And I'm going to let them introduce themselves. We have Mahlon and Kai. So Mahlon, if you would like to go first, if you can, just tell people your name, where you are now as far as in school, and just a little bit about some of your ambitions, and we'll dig a little deeper into it after that. And then Kai, you go next.
Got you. So my name's Mahlon. I'm a senior at Lemoyne College. My major is business management and leadership with a focus on entrepreneurship. And what I do to kind of bring that entrepreneurship journey to life is I do run my own podcast too. It's called Everything Anything Podcast. And I also have a sea moss business too, Maize Tropical Sea Moss. And those are the two things that I have a passion for and things that I'm trying to bring out after college and kind of get out there and push it to the next big level or the level above what I am right now. And that's kind of what I've been focused on and been kind of just doing, to be honest with you, is trying to be consistent with releasing and recording on the podcast, get to work on the official CMOS business stuff with the guys here like Mike and James and sometimes Doug. It's just trying to get out there and trying to build myself to the next level that's kind of the goal of the podcast and the CMOS business, to be honest with you.
Awesome. All right, well, I want to definitely dig into that a little more. I'm going to let Kai go ahead and introduce himself.
Yeah, so I'm Kai. I'm 20 years old. I'm a freshman here at Lemoyne. I'm majoring in economics and I'm minoring in entrepreneurship. My passion is music, so I do a lot of music. I make music. I love to record music. I love to make music sound better, and that's my goal in life, is to do more of that, figure out how I can get paid doing it.
Oh, I love that. You know what? I love music too.
Yeah.
After this is over, I have to sing my intro, my theme song. So what I love about the both of you is that you're a representation of the development and the shaping of society moving forward for the next 50 to 100 years. And you're both bright young men, and I think it's a privilege for us to have you and hear from you. And hopefully you'll be able to provide some insight to some of us, more of the adult leaders, but also your peers. Now, you have a CMOS business, Mahlon.
Yeah.
All right, tell me a little bit about CMOS and your business and how you got started.
So, CMOS, for people who don't know what CMOS is like a sea algae, almost like a seaweed, and it's grown in the ocean. It does have 92 out of 102 minerals that your body needs, and also 12 out of 13 vitamins that's out there. And it's just like a superfood. It's super healthy for you. The plain CMOS, it is tasteless, and that's why you could use it in your stews to make it thick, or use it in your smoothies, or you could just make anything out of it, jam, or just honestly anything. You can use it also as an egg replacement. So it's definitely a healthy substitute for a lot of things in food. And I also make juices too. And then I flavor those passion fruit, guava, soursop. So not only that it's healthy for you, it also tastes good. And that's a big factor with healthy food out there, is that it may be super healthy for you, but it just does not taste good. And that's why I think a lot of people just stay away from it. And I think that has been my journey, especially with moving to the US. And basically having too much access to like fast food and unhealthy food, to be honest with you, because it's like there's a McDonald's on every block now, so it's like it's easy to spend less money on like to get full or go to the supermarket and spend more money for a little bit of groceries that's healthy for you. So it was just easier to live that fast food life. But I realized that that's not the best life to live. That's an unhealthy life, and that's not a plan for longevity, to be honest with you.
Right, longevity, and that's the key word because you're 22 years old right now, right? How have you found that when you tell your peers, particularly, that this is what your business is? Who's your main customer, your primary customer? Two things. Who's your target customer, but who did you find was actually your main customer? So we have a target audience that we think and believe needs our products or our services.
Yeah.
But then over time, we find that it's someone different. How did that play out for you?
Honestly, it's crazy how you're asking this question because we're doing this in class like right now, and I've been struggling with that for the longest time now. But like, because I started off selling on the street. I had this shopping street near my house. I had cases of sea moss, cases of water, and I've been selling water before that on the street. So I started selling the sea moss too. And most of the people that came to me were either people from the Caribbean who grew up with sea moss too, and they were just trying to taste a different kind of sea moss, because my sea moss has no animal products in it. And that's usually what you get with sea moss drinks is animal products you get. So my sea moss is like totally vegan. I tried my best to like stick with that. And so it was either Caribbean people who already had it, who were trying to try something different, or people who never had it and seen it on TikTok because of like Kim Kardashian or something like that. And they were just trying to get into that lifestyle or that alternative living or alternative health lifestyle. And they were just trying it out, to be honest. So you get everything you need in one go, plus you're also full for at least 3 to 4 hours, so it just works all around, to be honest with you.
Perfect. Thank you. Kai, so you said that entrepreneurship is a minor that you are taking here at Lemoyne. What made you decide to select entrepreneurship as a minor?
Well, I knew that the business school here was really, really good. And as soon as I heard that they had a program that was for entrepreneurship, and then I learned like what that actually entailed, that being like, part of it is like you go in there with what you want to do and they'll help you make that happen. Or they'll be like, actually, maybe you might want to realign yourself this. But being able to have that resource, I think, is the most valuable thing somebody in my position could ever have, because I feel like as kids, entrepreneurs who are just trying to like do it, we have nothing. We have no framework. It's not like they teach you this kind of stuff in grade school. And so it's like a lot of people have no idea where to start. And being able to have that opportunity, that resource, I think is huge.
I want to double back to something that you're saying, but also want to make sure our listeners know that when you were younger, you actually made like mazes and used to create mazes and put them together and things like that. So if you could touch on that, but then I want to double back to something that you said I think is crucial, that you said we have no framework, and I want to dig into that with both of you. But real quick, if you can just talk a little bit about your youthful ambitions.
So when I was in elementary school, I was the type of kid in class to not really want to pay attention, and so I would like draw a lot, and I started to draw mazes, and I would just get really into it, and to the point where I had a whole bunch of them. And then we had this thing where one of our class projects was like, make something and sell it, and I was like, maze books. So I put them all together, polished them up, and then started doing that. And I sold a whole bunch of copies. It felt great. And it was like, wow, you know, I made something, I put it out there, and people are getting it. And it just felt so cool to me. And
Yeah.
it was just like, I think retrospectively, that just seems like the beginning of it all for me.
I love that because what I'm circling back to is that me also as an entrepreneur, obviously, as you know, is that I feel like entrepreneurs are like born. You can't make an entrepreneur, but you can make a businessman or businesswoman. They're not the same thing. And there's this innate, so people who get into entrepreneurship, there's this like innate abilities to naturally just sell or develop and create. That's the first thing. You're kind of like born with it or led into it somehow, or it's like always on your mind, and it's something that you just do. So for example, you being out in Brooklyn and being outside, just deciding, hey, I'm gonna sell, this water, or I'm gonna sell this sea moss. That's just something that you just decided to do, the hustle. The same with you. Yours is like, oh, this is something that I'm passionate about and that I love, and here's a project that we have to do, but I like this because I also get to do something I love and make some money. Then there's people that get into it because it's like, okay, it makes sense. The world needs more business leaders in general. And it's like, okay, I don't know what I want to do with my life because I don't have the framework. So maybe I should get into business. And then what I try to teach people and I tell them is that when you talk about a business plan, the business plan is the structure and the lesson that if anybody can understand it and fill out those boxes or those checks and balances, they can build a business. But to be able to take that business plan and execute it, it's a whole different vibe and it's a whole different drive. You know what I mean? Like you gotta have like a lot of resilience to actually run a business. And again, as an entrepreneur, that resilience is innately in you. Others you would have to develop, and it's not impossible, but it's innately in you. Now let's go back to framework. You said, well, it's not like that we have a framework. Do you find that you and your peers, because I feel like as adults, and I respect this, I respect adults, but I just kind of have a lot of issues with us too at the same time. You know what I mean? And I know and understand it's a generational thing, but it's you, Gen Z, that I have the most hope in what you're able to do, for the future, for my daughter and my future grandchildren. Like you're at that age right now. Do you understand that?
Yeah.
Like who you are and the power you really, truly have. Do you find that a lot of your peers are feeling and saying the same thing? And if so, what are they saying? Or what are they saying? And then what do you think is like some solutions to that?
I think, one thing I think that is, really big in our generation is the whole climate change issue. And I'm getting the sense like a lot of people are, doing things that are more oriented towards that than they would have, 10, 15 years ago. Mm-hmm. And there's almost a sense that if not who, then us, or if not us, then who. And so like, it feels like there's almost like a collective struggle in our generation because there's so many things going on. And then so it's almost like we know that people have to step up and we have to, lead ourselves through this because there's a lot of stuff going on.
Right. You have to lead yourself through it. What about you, Mahlon, hearing what Kai is saying, but also what are some of your thoughts?
I agree with Kai, and something that I could just add on to that is especially during like COVID and all of the Black Lives Matter situation that was going on. I think that young people took an amazing stand, and that kind of showed the power that us young people had out there and could actually make things happen, to be honest with you, because before that it wasn't but it was a while in between where young people actually stood up. I actually can't remember a time before that where there's so much young people that actually stood up and actually stood up to the man and told what I mean, kind of told him we're not standing for this, and things gotta change. And it may be slow progress, but it's
still
happening.
Progress.
Yeah, exactly. So,
right.
I think young people and just putting themselves out there for something that means so much played a big role in just like making change in that aspect, to be honest with you.
Do you foresee, and I don't know if this is the too advanced question, but I doubt it, because when I think about the workforce, the future of the workforce, and this big push on entrepreneurship and people running their own business, but you also have to have people that work for you, right? And I don't necessarily hear that counterbalance in the narrative of entrepreneurship that you know people should be looking at a career. So I have a 22-year-old son. My son has absolutely no interest in becoming an entrepreneur or running a business. He's the kid that says, I want to make a shit ton of money doing something that I really love and care about. Also makes a difference, to your point about your generation being into climate change. I call you a generation that cares, because you guys care about different like social and economic issues, regardless of like your race and your background. And I believe that that's where you can unify, but we'll dig into that too a little bit. And if moving further, but to my point about my son, He's the one that's like, I don't mind working hard and having a work ethic. He doesn't want to work hard labor-wise, though, which I want to ask you about. When it comes to construction, experience matters. For over 150 years, Heber Brewer Construction has been a leader in the industry. They are one of the most respected building firms in the region of Central New York, providing excellent service to clients and helping to transform their ideas into successful projects. Heber Brewer offers a wide range of services, including construction management, design build, general construction, and development. Whatever your construction needs may be, Heber Brewer has the expertise and experience to deliver the results you're looking for. Contact them today to learn how they can help you turn your ideas into reality. There is that group of your generation. Do you hear any of your peers talking more so like my son Jazeel, that, you know, I'm not really interested in being an entrepreneur or running a business, but I'd rather kind of work?
Yeah, I have, like, that's a big thing right now, especially with, you see, like, a lot of my peers in my classes, especially since I'm a senior, like, they get the internships and, you know, whatnot to kind of, like, position themselves for when they graduate. And a lot of them are, like, getting into, like, insurance and, like, marketing firms. And, I mean, it was kind of weird to me, because I'm like, wait, so they don't want to, like, start their own business or, like, work for themselves? And that's always been my mindset. So I've always, like, known that I will have to work to maintain and just, you know, support myself in the beginning, or it may be throughout the entire thing if I enjoy doing what I start doing. But a lot of my peers are going off to, like, work for, like, insurance companies and, like, marketing firms and, like, actually, like, a structured desk job. And I'm like, it's a huge thing now. It's like only most of the kids who are even in the entrepreneurship class, like, they're not taking it to be entrepreneurs. They're just either taking it to explore an idea they have, or just to meet that requirement to graduate. So
right,
it's like,
which is not actually, it's not a bad thing.
It's
because
not a bad thing.
What it does is which my generation was lacking, is we would just be going to work. But I think once you understand how a business is operated, you become a better employee.
Yeah.
Right? You become a better employee when you understand how a business operates, because then you can also see your value, you understand your worth, and then you understand the importance of your role.
Exactly.
And perspective is everything. That's what I want to give you to. Perspective is everything. It's how you look at it, right? And anything can be turned into, I don't want to say positive, negative, but anything can be turned into a perspective that is forward thinking and progressive, right? That creates progress. And I'm saying this to you because I know that this episode hopefully would go amongst your peers and my listeners in the community are, from my generation and age group as well, and business leaders. But that's the key, I think for everything that's happening now in society of how do we create, because we're always asking, let me tell you what's happening right now, right? Right now, it's so hard to find people who want to work.
Yeah, definitely.
And people say, oh, that's bull crap. And, you're just not doing your job to get out there. I'm a person in my current position right now in construction. It's labor-ready work. It's labor jobs. I mean, you got to use your hands. You got to be out there in the field, and you have to stay off your phones. We're having a very hard time either filling these positions or filling the positions and having people stay in the position. A lot of contractors are dealing with that right now. And again, I think that if people understood the value of what they were doing, in building this building from the very beginning, they would have more, ambition or encouragement or motivation to do it. Or you don't think so?
A lot of people don't care about the bigger picture nowadays. Like, majority of people do, but a lot just don't. You know what I'm saying? So it does take someone to show the bigger picture, but not like however it's being done now. I don't think it's working.
I think like in terms of the bigger picture, you're right. Like even if people do care about it, even if the majority of people do care about it, I feel like those people don't care about it enough to change how they operate their day-to-day basis. In a sense where it's like, there's a lot of landfills and stuff, but I don't really feel like sorting out my recycling and whatever.
Yeah.
And so like people just be like, it's already so bad, what am I supposed to? And so there's almost a sense of like indifference to it.
Where do you think that came from or that stems from?
I think a lot of it is the power structures that are in place in society make it seem as though it's very difficult for people who don't have that power to get any sort of change. And when the power structures are set up in a way where the people who don't have the power are getting almost exploited in a sense where like people don't get enough, like the minimum wage now just will not be able to pay for rent anywhere. And like, so there's almost a sense of like, what's the point?
Yeah, and I think that brings it to like social media too. You see a lot of like overnight stars, and a lot of people just like, I think like social media gave that illusion that you could just make it overnight, and when a lot of people don't make it overnight, it definitely messes with what you have going on, and just the idea of thinking,
right,
I could do this by myself, and now I can't. Now probably people don't like me or something like that, or just meaning like what if like basically if I'm trying to get like famous on TikTok or whatever, Instagram or whatever the case may be, posting videos or whatever, and it's not blowing up, those ideas of thinking, oh, my video is not good enough, or people don't like my videos, or people don't even like me doing those videos, will always flow through the head. And that kind of gives a sense of, at this point, I don't really care. I don't really care anymore. And you see that a lot. People tend to just give up after that, to be honest with you. When a lot of the time when one thing doesn't work out, it just seems like nothing will work out. So I think that brings that I don't care energy so much, like especially now with social media.
Exactly, because with social media, like the gratification is so instant. As soon as you post something, you're gonna get, somebody liked it, somebody commented, and then if you don't get that right away, then it feels like you failed or something. It's like oh, something's wrong, and then it's just so discouraging. And then because that's not how the real world works, you don't just get things overnight. You can't just. There's not some sort of one step that you get you to the top of the mountain. And so it just discourages people because they're not seeing some sort of overnight success.
Exactly.
But in reality, that's not even reality, because the only things that you see on social media are what's behind the camera, not what's actually going on in real life.
This reminds me, because I'm a generation ahead of you, well, a generation and a half, because I'm really a zillennial, which is like I'm Gen X, but millennial, like on that cusp, but kind of get pulled back and forth. But what I will say is that I think that my generation had a lot to do with that, and I don't want you guys to repeat the cycle. The cycle for us was, the issue for us was that hip hop had really just begun to take off in the late 90s, early 2000s. It's been around for a long time. But by this time in the late 90s, it became about the videos, right? So the music videos was very flashy. You had the cars, you had the diamonds, they popping bottles and Moet and all this stuff in the videos. And then what it did was encourage people from my community, particularly. I can't speak for the rest of the world, but I can only speak for what I know happened to me and my community from Mount Vernon, New York, born and raised and grew up in Yonkers, is that it had us chasing, not me, because I was very conscious. And that's the other thing I want to talk about, is that need and necessity to have self-awareness and be conscious, which prevents you from, falling into that trap. But back then, just so you know, it was all these flashy videos, Bad Boy, everything was shiny, and people were going after that. But what you didn't know was that those was rented cars, and those chains that they had iced out were either fake or it was borrowed from a jeweler, and they were pretty much like influencers. Nothing new is under the sun. You're not really creating, you're just recreating how it's done. And I just want you guys to know that, and I'm not being offensive. I just want you to know that to be truly innovative, you got to have some originality to it. You know what I'm saying? And so in life, it's a circle and things repeat itself. And what you guys are doing is, in some sense, not completely repeating history, but that part of history is what damaged us. It kept us stagnant because it wasn't reality. It was like what you're saying, Kai, behind the camera. That's all you're seeing. And all we were seeing was behind the lens of these videos. You say, oh, I want that. So now you're breaking your neck to try to achieve it, to impress people around you, not understanding that influencer, because that's what celebrities are, right? Were back then more so, before they started to be more empowered and get into business and so forth. But at that time, that's what we were like looking to do. The difference is that you needed real money to achieve that, which then either you selling drugs to get there, you selling your body to get there, or you dancing, or you doing whatever to make it happen. And I know that's cliche, and I might get some backlash for that. I don't care, because at the end of the day, it's the truth. It's not the only truth. It's a part of the truth, but it was a big reason. And so to you guys out there, don't let history repeat itself with that. It's so important that we have these conversations, so that what you're saying and what you are saying is that that's not a reality. It's important for us in our generation, talking about you guys, to center ourselves and really get involved. Now, you talked about power. Let's go there. You said the power's in place. And then you talked about the actions in 2020, where it was your generation who led the most massive and largest protests in history of the world. Because what COVID did was it made the world be still. And you go to framework, the truth of the matter is, and I can tell you this, is that no one has a framework, because COVID destroyed it for everyone, right? So we're at a point in time where I'm going back to you guys, you can literally, the door is wide open. It's not wide open. It was wide open, but it's starting to close. But there's still time for you to start thinking about how to use that voice. Right, and build power. Yes, become an entrepreneur. Yes, work, but always think about being your own leader, and also having a voice to your new leaders. Because what we need are new leaders. We need you guys to also be encouraged and ambitious and motivated to be legislators, people who actually make laws and impact policy, with the way you think and all that no one knows our future better than you, because you're at the beginning of our future with technology. We are in a tech society. That's how we live. Like the phones that we have, right?
Yeah.
It's pretty much we're cyborgs. It's like a third arm for us. We cannot live without it.
No.
We lose it, we lose our mind.
Yeah.
All right? Right? So this is who we are and where we are right now, and it just continues to develop. TikTok. You talking about TikTok and how, you know, it's a driving force of where people get their information. Let's go there. But based on the things that you heard me say just now, how does that impact what you know to be factual and true of where you are right now? And what does it give you for the future of like society? Do you see any hope in that? Do you think people are interested in becoming, you know, leaders in their communities aside from just entrepreneurship? I mean, I'm not around you guys, so what do you think about that?
I think there's lots of people who want to make a difference. I mean, during the 2020 protests, like I was out in the streets, you know, and like most of the people were people my age, like literally, because it was during COVID and none of us had school, and then this was going on, and so we're like, we got to go do something about it. And then on the flip side, I feel like it's quite discouraging for people our age when they see, you know, the political situation of the country, with you know the two-party system and the presidents and all of that stuff, and how, you know, it's really difficult to get your message widely spread. In terms of making concrete change, one of the most interesting things that I learned was in an economics textbook that I read this semester, and it stated that we were covering like fiscal and monetary policy and things that, you know, the government will do to try and make things better. And the textbook just said that if you actually really want to make a difference, a concrete difference, like go be a mayor, you know, go be a city councilor, go be a representative for the people of your actual community, because that's where you can make a change in people's actual lives, rather than go to Congress and then have a bill get filibustered for, you know, 6 months or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Local matters.
Exactly. Like grassroots movements is what's important.
Right. And that's something even with tech that's never going anywhere, which is why the Powerful Voices app was created. I designed it the way that I did because it's an organizing tool, and it needed to be in the tech space, and there really wasn't anything at that time that existed for people to be able to do it. Now the idea is to get more of you guys to use it, because I'm working with some students here and doing some voter data research over the last 6 years in some of Syracuse's most impoverished communities, which is wards 15 and 18, particularly, and wards 10. So ward 10 is the west side of Syracuse, 15 and 18 is on the south side of Syracuse. That data is like heartbreaking as far as engagement is concerned. And 2 questions with that. Do you find that your generation is disengaged when it comes to using their voice by votes because of the lack of belief and trust in the system? And then also, why do you think that voting data, which to you, all you guys, when I say voting data, just for example, in 15th ward of Syracuse, you have an average of like, let's say, what's the number? I want to say like 1,000 or a little over 1,000 registered voters, and only like 300 or something like that turn out to vote.
Wow.
That's crazy.
You know, and I'm trying to capture like who those voters are, like their age groups is kind of difficult because of how it's the Board of Elections work, but it's something that's being worked on. But knowing that, and then me thinking, okay, about you guys, like, how do you think you guys are encouraged or more discouraged to use your vote as a voice within our political system? And if not, or if so, why?
I think now more than ever we are encouraged to use our voices, because apparently I think it was this year the most like young voters showed out to vote, or whatever it was. And I think that was a big like push and like just a big breath of like fresh air, be like, oh wow, okay, people are actually, like we're actually doing this, like we're actually going out there and doing it. And I think, because I was never into voting until like recently, like this year was my, my second time voting, I believe. And I did it the first time when I because you start when you turn 18, right? Okay, so yeah, I did it the first time when I turned 18, and then I never did it again, and then I did it this year. But
why'd you never do? Let me go catch you there. Why you never did it again until like now, after you did it the first time?
I'm not really into politics, but when you start hearing that it's actually making a change, and you start like you start seeing the change. Not like I said, it's not so much, but any little change, matters. I guess it kind of like pushed me, and like hearing my peers talk about it and stuff like that, it's kind of like just pushed me to be like, you know what, maybe I should go vote. Maybe it does matter. And like I just never really thought it did until like, you just start hearing more and more and more about it. And I started I started reading on it like on my own, and started doing my own research and finding out more for myself, instead of just because all I really did was just hear, and I never went to go look for myself, and until I actually did.
And that's the key word, for yourself. Look for yourself. Follow the information for yourself.
Yeah.
The great Adam Weitzman, that's what I call him, because he's such an amazing guy and a friend. He talked about, like there was this infamous picture of him on LinkedIn, and he was on a plane with his daughter, Clover, with a picture of Donald Trump. And one of the reasons why, it didn't mean that he necessarily supported Trump or he didn't support Trump or whatever. And that wasn't what it was about. What it was about was making sure he taught his daughter to have all the information. Like, you need to know all the information and just learn to hear people out, whether you agree with them or not. And that's such an important trait to have in leadership, but also in just being a human being, when it comes to particularly now, so that's that, but I'm extending this, like particularly when it comes to dealing with our leaders, you mentioning having that two-party system, which I think your generation is more against a two-party system, right?
Yeah, I think, the two-party system I feel like it intrinsically polarizes things. Because
right.
it's like, well, I grew up in Canada, and we have more than two parties, and there's never been a situation where it's been one versus the other. There's always been like at least three sort of front-running parties, and that just gives a more broader, depth of political ideologies. And then here you have these huge umbrella parties where, you have, like in 2020, Joe Biden was, doing everything he could. He wasn't Joe Biden. He was the guy running against Trump, and that's how he was able to win the election. And like it's when that's what the politics becomes, I can see why it can become very discouraging for people.
Yeah,
conversations
exactly.
With my friends who are American and who can vote, because I can't vote, and I'll be like, why should I vote? What's the point? And I'm like, well, yeah, there is no point if you don't vote.
That's right. You can't. So you said you can't vote right now, right?
I can't vote. I'm on a green card right now, and so I'm waiting because now to vote I got to be a citizen, and that'll take time for me.
How long does that usually take?
I think the process is, so after you have a green card, which took about 3 years for me to get. So my family moved here in the summer of 2019.
Okay.
My green card just before this summer started in 2022. I think it's after you get that, it's about 5 years of permanent residence, and then you can apply to become a naturalized citizen.
Okay.
And then you take all the tests, do all of those things, and they'll get you set up. But yeah, so I probably if I were to vote and become a citizen, I think the next election that I would be able to do that, it would be 2028.
2028. Which still, though, it doesn't limit the fact that you don't have a voice. You still go to school, you work, pay taxes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All of those things. So your voice still matters and makes a difference. You just don't have the vote voice.
Exactly.
But you still have a voice, and it still matters, and it still is important because you're someone who's contributing to our communities and our society. And this is what I mean. Like, I bet you no one else actually even from your generation, what I found, like, you guys don't care about all the like, oh, where you're from or what race you are, and like it's okay to maintain a pride in your own culture.
Yeah.
This is what I'm finding, because, like I said, I have a kid around your age, and then I also have a 14-year-old, and I just listen to them and their friends and just different things, and what I'm gathering, which helped really change my mind and bring me more to have more objectivity and check more of my biases, is that, and why I have so much hope in you, is that, you can maintain the pride of your race or your culture and your background for yourself and still embrace differences in other human beings. Because when it comes to society and the world, it's really about creating the environment that works for everyone for real. As long as you're positive, you're productive, everybody just wants the right thing. Everybody just wants the ability to have opportunity. And racism, structural racism, to be clear, because I believe we can change the system and its structure, but the mentality of people, that's going to be a little bit more harder.
Yeah.
But if you change the structure of the system, eventually over the next 20 to 30, 40 years, you'll be able to have a society of beings with a different mentality, if that makes any sense.
It does.
Which is why it's so important for you guys to be involved in.
Yeah, because it feels like
policy.
we're almost at a place where, like, the system created these people, and like the people that created this system are long gone. Like, those are the people who had slaves.
Right.
And so at this point, clearly that's not the case. And so it's not the people, but it's the system that the people are inside of.
Right.
So that's what has to change.
So we got to get you guys either involved to become a part of the system, to develop it and create it by being the decision makers and having that power and that influence where the system, where laws are passed, policies are created from a local, state, and federal level, but starting with local first, and or being engaged on the outside and holding your leaders accountable, and also encouraging them. I don't know if people understand that you have the power to talk to your lawmaker and get them to develop a legislation or law that works and benefits your community. And that's what we plan on doing through the Powerful Voices app and through this platform. Mahlon, I know you have to get ready to get up on out of here. I want to close out with a message from you guys to the listeners, particularly business leaders, change agents that are currently in existence, that do have power, that do have the ability to make a difference, that do have the ability right now, today, to begin to do it right now, or at least set the process off of it. If I can ask you to give maybe two sentiments, if you will. One, concerning our political system. What is it that you would like to see them do or focus on that you think is beneficial for your generation and the generations to come after? What area? Give me 2 to 3 social issues that you think that if they were to focus on that and what that looks like would be beneficial to you and future generations after you.
I think the most important one, and this is one that I've been thinking about for a while now. I'm kind of excited you asked this question because it's just more incentives for Black communities and just like underprivileged kids out here, to be honest with you, like more opportunities to come to school and like get a college education, especially through groups and scholarships like the HUP program, which is what I'm in right now. And they gave me the opportunity to come to college and stuff like that, even though, like even though I would have still went to college, probably stayed in Brooklyn, went to a community college, but it gave me the opportunity to come here and get the benefits of what a college like this, a private college like this, could offer, instead of me just getting the mediocre, benefits that they give to like community colleges or just anything else, to be honest with you, because just giving more incentives and more programs to help underprivileged kids and help underprivileged communities, and just in general, to be honest with you, just opportunities. It doesn't matter how they get it there. It just needs to get there, to be honest with you.
Okay, what's the second one? A second issue.
Second issue. I don't think I have three, but I definitely have one more. I would say just probably it's like more the cannabis issue.
Okay.
Is like needs to get like federally legalized, to be honest with you, because that's been an issue for a while now, how the weed is becoming legal, but there's still thousands of people in jail for a spliff or two, you know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So that just needs to be gone, to be honest with you.
Mm-hmm.
Like that just, like federally, the state.
Federally, state is one thing, but right, if it's federal, it would be for everywhere.
Everyone,
yeah.
No matter. So I just think they need to get on it on a federal level, and I know it's confusing, especially it still, people still consider it a drug, but I mean, bro, it's so confusing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think.
What about you, Kai?
Well, I just wanted to comment on what you said about the cannabis industry, because it's interesting that this is where the government is putting their efforts when, there are these giant national pharmaceutical companies that have literally fueled an opioid epidemic in this country, and then they're like, oh, we gotta, put people in jail because they have a bag of weed on them.
Right.
And so... that definitely rings clear to me.
That's a whole podcast by itself. We're going to come back and talk about that, just weed, like a weed podcast, talking about just the cannabis, the laws and the policies behind it. We're going to write that for the books and have you guys come back, and maybe bring some of your friends, because I really want to dig into that. Because to your point, I agree. That's one of the biggest. We have people incarcerated right now for, such a small... Anyway, but Kai, let's go with you. What's your one of the three issues that you would like to have politically first our leaders focus on more for you in the future?
In terms of politics and in terms of leaders, I want to see more outreach to youth. I want to see political leaders helping children and people who are growing up understand the importance of, not the importance of politics, because that's not the right phrase, but the importance of public administration. Mm-hmm. Because people don't get it. They don't understand what's going on at that, the town hall building in your city, things happen in there, and the outcomes of your life could change based on what happens in that building. And you could totally just have a say in that if you did it.
I love
people just don't know it.
Yeah.
What's the second one?
Second one, I think times have been tough, and people just have to remain hopeful. You always, one of the things I think about life is there's so many things out there that it can almost feel like nothing is important because everything is irrelevant. But I think it's actually the flip side, because there are so many things, but we still feel like there's things that are special to us. That's what's important. The fact that we have those things, you can't let those go.
I love it.
Thank you.
Well, I thank you two so much for joining me today and opening up and sharing a little bit about yourselves and your views and your perspectives on various topics that we were talking about today. Please, you both are incredible young men, and I'm so excited to see that, you are going to be people, or you are actually right now contributing to, our community, our society of humanity, and just continue doing what you're doing. Make sure you spread the message and talk to people about the things that we've talked about today, and any takeaways that you have for yourself. And please be open to coming back, because I really enjoyed having you two here
thank you.
with me today on my very first episode of Rising CNY, because this is my dream. So you guys are literally, I'm 46, did what I had to do, raise my kids, and then now I'm actually able to be here, living out my dream, and you're a part of it. So I'm so grateful.
I'm grateful to be a part of it.
Thank you.
I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to actually, be on your first episode, to be honest with you. It's a big deal.
It was meant to be.
Yeah.
It was meant to be. Nothing is a coincidence. Nothing happens by accident. I'm getting a little emotional. I just am. But because it is, and that hope you was talking about, that's what I want to, that's my dream, to continue to bring hope in the darkness and get people to understand that the darkness is necessary. So, there's a lot of transition and things that take place in the darkness. If you think about a caterpillar, and the caterpillar's in its cocoon, it's dark in there, but look what's happening to the caterpillar in that darkness. And I just want young people and all people to understand it, because there's a lot of people hurting, and there's a lot of people in your generation also, like, I know we talked all about the empowerment stuff, but they're struggling with mental health so badly right now. It's really a big thing, and that's another thing we're going to put on the books when you come back. I want to talk about mental health for your generation, because of the lacking of hope and support, and that's something that's real, and it's just going to take a little more time to curate how the episode would go, because it's a very sensitive subject. But I recognize that I am a pillar and a chosen person, I believe, because faith is big for me, that, Lakia, loving every kid in America, is my job. It's a part of my job to kind of bring some balance to that, of hope to all of us, and but mostly our young people, of what they can do, because I see you, and I see your power, and I see your abilities, and I'm not going to be around too long. 100 years is nothing to eternity, to a lifetime. So it's just a lifetime, but for eternity, it's just small. So I'm not going away no time soon, but, legacy is also important. I think that's where I'm at now. Until next time, we are on the rise. Let's clap it up for that. The sun is going to shine. Everything is bright and light and love and light and all that good stuff, because you all are amazing human beings. And that's all I want you to see and know and understand. Until next time. Bye.